This may have a few interruptions. It might be difficult. I also typed it out, and it'll be on a website for people who are deaf and may not be able to understand what I'm saying. But today is September 13th, 2021. And this is about the evil of a Canadian called Mike Harris and the Conservative Party and the American Republicans on mental health issues. And it's going to be long, and if you're not interested, so block me. But I woke up with I'm 80 years old, and I woke up with flashback nightmares on the evil of Mike Harris and Canada's Conservatives and American Republicans. I was remembering people that I loved or met with mental health diseases. In 1953, a child that I took care of when I was 12 to 15 with schizophrenia, her mother could not bear the sight of her and put her into a mental health hospital in North Bay, Ontario. In 1967, a brilliant, beautiful, handsome hairdresser in the fashion world that I loved took too much LSD one day and disappeared. I searched for days and finally found him sitting on a sidewalk, Yorkville, Toronto, spastic, with his brain fried. I called next door for an ambulance, and he was put into the mental health hospital downtown Toronto. I visited for a while until the doctors told me to stop because I would break out in tears, sobbing, and he didn't know who I was. In 1973 to 1983, a boy of 16 who also took LSD only once fried his brain, and he was living full-time in the Seventh-day Adventist Hospital on Finch Avenue. It was 100% vegetarian diets for disease control. And we met there, and for decades, my paralyzing allergy attacks were treated there by detoxifying me somehow. I never did learn how. Too bad, I wish I had. I continued to visit him, and we became friends, and after 10 years he was able to go into the world and try to work. I helped him learn how to do that, and he got well at age 27. Those hospitals gave them all 3 healthy meals a day, nurses, doctors, and mental health doctors. They were well treated. In 1966, I had a friend who was a care worker, and I would visit the boys he took care of and play with them in one of the hundreds of homes like that all over Ontario. These homes were for handicapped, some for troubled youth, some were abused children. And all these homes had a full-time resident person who made sure they were okay. They learned what they could, a trade for some, others got well enough to work, and these programs were subsidized by the government taxpayer. They got 3 healthy meals a day, doctors on call if needed, and with the full-time supervision, many got well. If any were abused by workers at any of these places, hospitals, wherever, the police were called and that person was charged immediately. And I know because I was involved in many of these cases as my friend was a resident there. Then along came Mike Harris and his conservatives, and they shut down all those hospitals and homes. Patients were put out onto the streets. Some found places to rent, but many wound up homeless on street drugs, and the rest is history. 1952, I don't know when. I don't remember the year. But during those years, we had non-profit seniors, full-time long-term care buildings all over Ontario. I know because I visited many often, starting as a teenager and up until 2016. And they had full-time nursing care, doctors on call, 3 healthy meals with fruit and veggies every day. And I visited over the decades friends of my parents, neighbors, friends of my neighbors, my mother's aunts and cousins, and including my grandmother, and they were well cared for. They had entertainment, musicians, and dancing once a week, and they had a minivan that took them shopping and church on Saturdays and Sundays. Then Mike Harris and his conservatives learned from the Americans, Republicans, how he could make himself and his crooks even more money. They imported for-profit senior and long-term care. Suddenly it was all about cutting costs and making profit. Handicapped, disabled, seniors left in soiled diapers for days. Meals that were the kind that cause disease, not help or prevent disease. Patients were left to suffer year in and year out, and families were barred, yes, barred, from getting help, while the police just ignored all their calls begging that charges be laid. Most of these profit homes killed many patients long before COVID-19 came along to kill them in ever-increasing numbers. I will forever despise and curse Mike Harris and conservatives in both Canada and the United States, as Mike got his ideas from Americans and people who today are like Trump. I will curse them all for eternity for what they did to our seniors, disabled, and victims of mental health. Today I know that many of these patients as far back as 1933 had my disease, Parkinsonism, a disease caused by being systemically poisoned. Air, food, water, beverages, and the mental health issues were a side effect of being poisoned. Made worse by being misdiagnosed as mental instead of multiple chemical hypersensitivities and allergies. Many of them were allergic to electricity. I know. I remember them telling me that as far back as 1965, how they suffered so much from pain from the TV. So I often took them out to a live theater performance and a concert outside, or to a wilderness park for a few hours, and they and I both always felt better. For me, it was less fumes. That's hindsight. I didn't know that back then. And for them, it was less electricity. As I look back on the holocaust of crimes I endured, yes, I was lucky I survived without being incarcerated, as they are often now, because as a society we are so inhumane. We throw them out onto the streets to suffer not caring, nor voting for a government that cares. So when you vote, just remember you get the government you vote for. And if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. I will vote green, not because they'll do anything about the diseases from chemicals I'm talking about, nor because they will get in, because they won't, but because it is the right thing to do, since no one else is willing to stop poisoning the planet. And maybe someday they will read my story and do something about us too. It's on a free non-profit website, https://okra OKRA70 for children, and I will type that on YouTube. Over and out.